everybody, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today we are coming together for day 5 of our 12-day holiday event. This beautiful painting was inspired by you. I've been asked for this a bunch. This is a gorgeous menorah. It's very abstract, very esoteric. I love the blue on blue color scheme, and I'm going to show you everything you need to know so you can paint this for yourself at home. So get your paint, get your brushes, come back and meet me at Easel right now. We're going to paint this together. Let's take a look at the materials we're going to use in today's really beautiful and calming painting. So I have an 11 by 14 canvas board. It's ready to paint and ready to go. Over here I have my palette out. I have my Prussian blue, my titanium white, my phthalo blue, my zinc white. I also have some fluid white for dotting, assorted brushes, and pouncers for making bokeh bubbles. Let's get the background painted in and we can start creating this beautiful painting. So I'm going to take my big wide brush. This is a number 30 red handle TheArtSherpa brush. I'm going to dip this in the water and drag this off. You just want to use a brush that you're comfortable covering the whole canvas with that gives you a good result. I'm going to load my brush. I'm going to pull paint, flip, pull paint. I like to flip it again and pull paint from the outside edge out. And this act of brushing it out helps load the brush. And then I'm going to just come and cover the whole canvas with my Prussian blue. Now my first run of brush strokes, I am going to be horizontal just because it's going to help build the structure or the texture of my painting. That's pull, pull, pull. Pull, pull, pull. A little moisture on my brush, a lot of paint. Paint the whole canvas. Just making sure I've got a nice, beautiful covering. Coming again, dipping a little bit in the water, pull, 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 flip, pull, pull, pull. And you can see how I've loaded all that paint in this short time into my brush. Just making sure I'm happy with my first coat. I'm going to put my brush down and real quick dry my canvas so I can do the second coat. It's going to give it a lot of depth and richness and really give you a pleasing final result. Now that we have the background dry, let's put in the next layer that starts adding depth to this beautiful painting. I'm going to get my big brush again and come over here and load up. But you notice I didn't dip in water. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 pulling. 1, 2, 3 and really load up with my Prussian blue. And then I'm going to come first on the edge of my brush and I'm going to be making, I'll chalk it in for you, a very soft curved shape. And this is going to build some structure into our painting to imply the shape of things. So first I'm going to come on the edge just to sort of sketch it in. And then once I have that in, I'm going to start going back and forth with my brush stroke. And you'll notice how when this blue layers over itself, it becomes a darker blue and gets really rich and full of depth. And so that's going to be something that you're going to definitely want in this. And I think it's things that you can think of for this to help you paint it are a skateboard ramp. But you're just wanting to make this nice curve. When I designed this, this was about a couple of things because I was trying to make a piece that felt very connected and very spiritual. And I wanted there to be this sense of incredible peace and energy. So not only does this show sort of the shape of what you might think of for a menorah, but also it has this river going through it. And I think the river is very important to the feeling of this piece. I'm just making sure this curve is nice. That can take a couple seconds because the brush strokes are really the first part of making this curve feel real. It can help to put my canvas on the edge because I'm bonking into the bottom of my easel. I could also flip it over. Any of those things to give me a more comfortable positioning in my canvas would be a good idea. And while I'm just here, I'm going to take, and this is interesting, a little of my zinc and put it on my blue. And I'm going to start to come just at the bottom of this and put this first soft shading in my curve. Just enjoy curving this. Curving up. You can see it's just a little bit of the zinc. It doesn't do a big event. I may even turn upside down so I'm getting a nice angle. But it does give that sense of curvature, and it's going to let me lay I'm a little stronger right here on this edge. My curve in a bit. There we go. See, I'm just softly stroking and brushing this out. I'm not even pressing in on the filaments. I'm just getting that first sense. Once that's in, I can come here because I have to darken this background and smooth that out. But now that I have that in, I can rinse out my brush. Just rinse it all out nicely. Get all the acrylic paint out of it you can in the jar. I'm going to dry it and put it to side. And remember that I've really got to wash it after I'm done painting. Okay, let's put in the next fun part, which is the background bokeh. And I am excited to show this to you. So these are pouncing sponges. They're round and they have a handle. These are mine, but there are many pouncing sponges out there. You just want something that's going to let you pounce a round shape. And how I load this is I'm going to come right here and I'm going to put this into the paint. And you can see I'm just twirling this around, right? I'm trying to get the paint loaded through the sponge. This is going to just start a first wonderful layer. And once it's all pretty loaded and I'm happy with that, there we go. That would be like a nice load. I'm going to come to my Prussian blue. This is my Prussian. This is my phthalo. And I'm going to come just on the edge and put some on this sponge. So you can see how there's some dark here. It's a little bit around, but the predominant focus of the dark is right there. Now I'm going to be putting in this background of these kind of bokeh bubbles, these sort of sparkles in the background. And to do that, I don't really want to take them down much past here because I'm going to have my candles in this area. So how you do a nice bokeh pounce is put this straight into your canvas, press a little bit and twist. And if you get bubbles, you can always tap them out and they will go away. So I'm just pressing and twisting. I'll come over areas that I've done, pressing and twisting. So these are the big far away ones. If ever you get one you don't like, you can always go back and change its shape. This is nice. Pressing and twisting. Fun stuff. I'm going to put one right on the corner here. I'm just trying to make sure that these are around, placed well for a nice and enjoyable design. There's going to be a lot of layers, but you can go back if any need to be. You can see I'm spinning the bubbles back out. So how I do that is This is sitting here and I come back and I just twist the opposite direction I first did. And it actually erases the bubbles for me. It's a nice thing that these do. So I want to take this out of here, and how I'm going to do that is I'm going to come to the back. I'm going to push that out a little bit, and I'm going to put this in a jar of water. If you're at home, definitely just wash these out right away. I think it's a good idea. But I'm going to be here a minute, so we're just going to put it in a jar of water. Okay, so we have these beautiful bokeh in. We've started to put in the curve and this beautiful shape for our menorah. Let's kind of refine that a little bit and add some depth behind it. Then we're going to lay in our candles. So I'm going to grab this. This is a number 8 bright. It's a Cambridge, which means it's both bristles and synthetic filaments. It's a great brush. I really like it. I'm going to get it wet, drag off the extra, come right here to just my blue, and I'm going to load up. So I go pull, 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 flip, pull, pull, pull. I'm going to come behind my curve, and I'm going to soften this shape a little bit with this blue paint right here. So you can see how I smoothed that out now. And the subtle transition from the zinc to this blue is letting me see these two spaces pretty well, which I like. I'm going to put out a little more of my Prussian blue. As you layer this up, this becomes like the black in your canvas. It's very, very cool color. There's a lot of reasons why I use both blues, but most of it, and I'll show you when we add white to it later, is the difference between these two blues when white is added. It lets me create a sense of dimensionality even though they're both blue. I'm just making sure. And I'm going to still kind of follow this curve, but you can see the values now as the paint layers. This becomes very deep and starts to talk about very spiritual things. Very calming things. Pulling this down. I really think the things that we look at when we're painting, I think they're important. I think the type of pictures we paint are important to our healing and our well-being. And you can see as I'm coming up, I'm just kind of scruffling, see the brush going back and forth and softening this edge. So acrylic paint, when it's dry, doesn't really blend into wet acrylic paint. It's not like an oil. But one of the ways that you get a blend is how I am sort of scruffily dry brushing right here. It's creating a soft finishing edge for the space down here to the bokeh up here. And this is another way of getting a soft result. Let's add one more coat, one more of blue to that. I know, shocking. But it's going to make a difference. And then when we put this in, we start adding these little highlights and these feelings. Wow. It's going to be spectacular. There we go. Breathing in, breathing out. Not stressing about anything right now, just painting our painting. Feeling relaxed. So when you have this a nice deep color, where you feel like you could just be going into space, just deeper in, you're good there. It's great to add another layer of highlights to your curve. So I'm going to put out a little more zinc. A little more zinc white. And zinc white and titanium white are as different as Prussian blue and phthalo blue are, even though a lot of times in paintings you can exchange them. I'm going to come here and add a little zinc white to this. You can see that's still very blue. It hasn't creamed out yet. And I'm going to come right here on the edge of my bristles. I'm not pressing very hard. I'm just being soft about it. Curving up. Not too far. Not all the way up to the top. About right here on each side. And I'm going to just come down. Adding this light right here. If you need to, flip your canvas over. Always make sure you're working to a position that doesn't hurt you or your body. If you're sitting at a table and you're in pain, if you're standing at an easel and you're in pain, then you need to stop and listen to your body and see if there's something that you could be doing in the fog of the creative process that's causing that, and maybe make some changes. You'd be surprised how often it's just so easy to get excited about being creative that you find that you're hunched over, not in good posture, or maybe you haven't turned your canvas, you've turned yourself. I have seen people contorting themselves in all kinds of ways to get a better angle of their canvas and forgetting to just flip the canvas over. And I'll be honest, I've done it to myself. Here we go. We're just brushing this. Isn't this nice? It's just lovely. Softening it out. Looks great. Let's rinse out real quick. And now you're going to see really fast why the phthalo is so different from the Prussian. So when I come over here, I'm going to pull out a little phthalo and a little white, the zinc white. And can you see how different those two colors are? This is just vibrant and saturated and quite bright. This has a lot of yellow and green, and this does not. So it makes an incredible muted blue, even though it's very deep and saturated. And the play of these two things together just is so exciting to me. I'm going to come here with my phthalo and my zinc white. And I'm going to brush on the edge. A little bit of this. Just maybe some of it comes up. You can kind of curve this up. And now you can see how it just pops against this background, doesn't it? Just amazing. Creating that electric energy. Now that you have that, you can come over and get some titanium white. And you can see how different that is to the zinc, which just lightens this a shade but doesn't really change it. This makes it that very bright blue, doesn't it? That sky blue. So this is my first color for my water. I'm going to start here. It's going to be whiter here and becoming narrower there. I'm going to be on the edge of these bristles, on this part of the bristles, and I'm going to stroke to the right gently and stroke to the left, back and forth. My longest curves will be here towards the dark blue, and they'll get diminishing. No, actually, that was backwards. My longest will be here, away from my dark blue. So you turn a canvas upside down, and then there you go. Sorry, I explained that wrong. Shortest here, longest as they approach up. So as I'm coming, I can bring this out. Nice long stroke. It's very dry brush. Can you see how dry brushed it is? Get just a little more in your white. I'm going to come from here and bring this back. Look at that, just touching the canvas. I'm just kind of zigging. You're going to want it to get smaller as it's coming back. Keep going. I'm going to even just kind of touch a couple touches here. And then we'll turn it over and make sure that it looks enough like a little bit of running water coming down. We'll verify. Pretty good. I'm going to make a couple adjustments. I'm going to come here and you can see that I'm sort of fixing the water pattern so that it's reminiscent of the way water is when it runs somewhere. Getting a little more, making sure this back has this little area. I just want to do this. See how I'm going longer here? Might have puddled. Starts to feel like. There we go. So now we have that. And guess what we get to do? We get to put in the measurements that are going to help us build our candles and our menorah. And then once we know where those are, we can put in our bright bokeh, which is super fun. And I'm going to show you how to get those beautiful little finished bokehs on the foreground too. So let's get our T-square and our chalk and put this in. So the first thing when designing this is that I wanted to make sure that my central candle was exactly halfway on my canvas. So this particular canvas is 11 inches or 28 centimeters. So you would want to come to the halfway point, right, which is 5.5. I always have trouble seeing the half mark on this particular ruler, but I believe it is right here, 5.5, which is 14 centimeters. So 28 centimeters, halfway point is 14. And I'm going to be very carefully, I'm going to make just a vertical soft line down. I can erase these chalk lines. This is just chalk that you might use on a kid's chalkboard. And I just want to make sure I have this line. Now across here, above where this ends, just barely above where it's going to end, I'm going to make a horizontal line right here, making sure my T-square is staying pretty flat. There we go. And then I'm going to come up a ruler's width, right? This is just almost the width of my ruler. You can go a little bit beyond, but you have to leave room for the flame of your candle. And I'm going to make another horizontal mark. So I know that the top of my main candle, the lighting candle, is raised above the other candles. So now that I kind of know where they're going to be, make sure that that's fairly level, I can start putting in some of my bright bokeh and not really mess too much with the object on the foreground, because sometimes it's nice on a design sense to know where things are going to be so you can put them where you want them later. You never want to look at your painting after it's all done and be like, oh, I wish I'd done it this other way. So I have 3 sizes of this bokeh. The next part of the painting are going to be these 2 sizes. And the first thing that I'm going to do, and this is interesting, I'm being my titanium white this time, which we're much more saturated, right? So I'm going to come here and twirl, twirl, twirl. Let's see how it's loading. Twirl, twirl. It's loading pretty good. That's a pretty good load. I'm going to come here and I'm coming on the edge and spinning. I'll reline it back up. There we go. See that nice where it's, some of it's white and there's that nice depth of phthalo blue. Now I'm going to come here and I want to make sure right here and in a range above this is these sort of candle flames. And you want to just be careful with your bokeh that you're aware of that when you're putting it in, but of course it has to layer several places. So I'm going to just come in and spin. If you have to counterclockwise spin, you can do that. Press in, spin, press in, spin. I do like to layer them. I think sometimes that helps how they read. If I ever have one that gets a weird shape, I just come back and go over it a couple of times. Up here. You can always go backwards if you need to get rid of some texture. Or change, like if I wanted this bokeh to layer on top of the other one, I just come back and do it again. If you need to, you come back and spin into your white. And then you can always grab another little bit of your blue. Just putting, press and spin, little bokeh bubbles where it feels like They could be very appreciated. Maybe put one down here. And just thinking about where those flames are, I'm kind of trying to be aware of that. I want there to be depth. If I'm going to do any of these kind of by where the flames are, I'm going to do them super light so that they're not too much. You can do that sometimes too, where you press them very light and they make kind of like a far away bokeh. See? You go light like that versus where you press hard. And it can make a very nice effect. When you're happy with that, then you want to make sure that you take this sponge and also either wash it right away or make sure that it is soaking in water so that it doesn't dry on, and get your small bokeh. Now, I like to do a lighter one here. I might even get some zinc. I'm just going to load up with some of my pigment. I'm in my titanium white. I'm just spinning. There's some blue in it. So I'm going to pick up a little color. You can get a smidge into this and come and leave small. See how these are smaller, and that makes a difference to how they look. There you go. Just putting those around, making some of that texture. All right, I think those are looking pretty good. Now my last step, and one of the things I like to do, and I'll show you this technique and I think you'll really enjoy it, is I like to take a smaller brush and I like to come back and kind of refine a few of my bokeh bubbles so that they're really crisp and almost in hyper dimension and really pop out on the canvas. So how I do that is first I'm going to come get some white paint with my number 2 bright. This is a ruby satin bright, but it's just a number 2. See how it's like kind of small? It's going to be really easy to work all my candles and all my flames and everything with a small brush. But first let's get our bokeh. And you're going to find one and you're going to pull it to the forefront. Like this is a good one. So come here. I'm going to paint on the left-hand side. And pull this down just a bit. That's fun. And now I'm going to come without rinsing my brush. I'm going to grab a little of my phthalo. I'm going to just paint this back half. Feather this in, and you can see that this kind of hard edge and strong shading gives you a bokeh that sort of stands out. If you lose all your white, come back with your titanium white. Definitely shade that in. Let's do this one here. I'm going to show you a couple. You do as many as you like. It's good to leave some of them kind of raw and loose though, and some of them to be tight and thought out. Creates a lot of emotional dimension. All right, see, here we go. Just kind of remembering what I did over here, and that kind of creates a sense of space. Shading that in, and you can always come back with a little highlight. And you can see how very quickly doing just a few of these, you know, I'll do a small one here. Can help make a few of these seem so much more resolved. And if they're too much the same value, just wipe off your brush, get a little white. There we go. Oh, easy. All we got to do there. So you do that as much as it pleases you. But again, my advice is to let some of them be rough and have some of them be painted in and really finished, to get kind of like that there's some close up in high definition and some that are distant and going into an infinite space. That's how I like to do that. Let's paint in these candles. I'm going to get back to my number 8. this guy. And the reason I like this little dude right here very, very, very much is that it is the width, basically, of the candles that I'm trying to make. So it helps me definitely keep those lines straight and paint them in the way that I like. I'm going to put in my center candle first, and how I do that is I'm going to pull out a little of my Prussian blue. I'm going to load both sides. Both sides. I'm going to get a little titanium white. You can see it was definitely different than how the zinc white affected the Prussian blue. And I want it to be more white, so I'm going to make sure it's pretty light. You can see I'm grabbing it to make sure I've got my value. And this is how I'm going to shade up my candle. I have this very light Prussian blue. I'm going to come here, and it's just the width of my brush, right? A little bit. Make sure I have a nice top. And this candle I'm going to take down to about here. It's my shortest one. I'll just pull down this stroke very straight. And then here towards the end, I lighten my stroke, and it lightens the amount of paint that's connecting with the canvas. See that? So that's going to just lay that in. I'm getting a little Prussian, get a little more white. So to create this arc underneath, I have to pay attention to the length of my candles. At the edge here, I can come on the edge and finish it with the edge of my bristles. And I have my nice guiding line here, so that helps me keep it straight. I might bring just one sort of fantasy little streak down, like it's just disappearing in the ether. So then I'm going to come on each side of this, right? And then I've got this out one. So first I'm going to do these two, and then I'm going to do these two, and then I can put the middle one in spaced well. And that's how I get that laid out. You could go through and measure it. That's just not my way, but you know, my way is not the only way. I'm just going to show you how I do it because it's like kind of relaxing and easy. But if it's not relaxing for you, do it the way that has you feeling relaxed. I'm going to keep taking this color. All right. So I'm going to come here to the side. I need a little space from the main candle. Right, so I'm going to put this candle right here. And then right across the same distance, which is almost like a pinky for me, I'm going to put another little candle. So there's a space between the lighting candle and the two side candles. Now, when I pull these down, I want their left side to actually stroke down a little longer, and then their inside stroke will be a little bit shorter, and each of them will be longer than this candle. I know, it sounds crazy. First, just take your first brush stroke down, same way, letting it go dry and then pulling up so that it gets soft like this, about when it gets to the same length as your first candle. So see, we have those there. Pretty easy. You can do that. A little straight square stroke. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come on my edge here. I'm very carefully going to pull down a little bit. See that? A little. And these each will be the same length. And then I'm going to just stroke down. See how that taper is? So if I come on the inside, I just know that my candle needs to sort of finish and evaporate into the ether. Making sure my nice left side is nice. You know, sort of pull this down. This is just the first layer. This is what gives us the shading to our candles, and it makes it really nice. So I've got those two in. Then I want to make sure that I've got these two outer ones in, and then I can fill in my two, well, it's 4 total remaining in those centers. So let's get those outer ones in. No, actually, that's not what I'm going to do, because I think that would make it harder for you. So I'm going to keep just building this out. All right, let me show you how to mark in the rest of these candles so you can lay this out easily. I'm going to pull out a little of my white. I still have some of my little Prussian on my brush. And now to get the rest of these laid out, I'm going to come along my chalk line here. And I'm going to come in about a pinky's width from the outside edge. I want this candle to have about a pinky's width to the outside edge. And the same thing over here. So I'm going to just tap that in. I've got one there. This is really easy to paint out if something goes wrong. You could also, like if you wanted to, lay these spacings in with chalk. Then between this one and this one, right, I've got to put one here. And then I've got to put one here. So that's how I'm going to make sure that I have good spacing. I'm just trying to make sure that I've got about a pinky's width between each of those marks so that they just feel evenly spaced. So you're going to want 4 here and 4 here. So now I have that marked in. I can then easily paint in my candles with their ever increasing length. All right, let's add a little water. You've got this. You can do this. Just go, ah, I can do this. All right. So I have this one and this one then. I'm going to just tap in the top of my candle. I'm going to pull it down at first to the lengths of the ones next to it. We're going to actually have to change that up to make the art. I'm going to flip my brush over because I have more paint on the other side. Do the same over here. And see, I went back and forth, planted it, and then I'm going to pull down. So there we go. We have that pulled down so we can see them. I'm going to load up, a little dip in water, a little load. Here we go, pull, 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 pull. You can see how it says pulled all that paint into my brush. Got lots of paint to work with now. So I'm going to come on the edge of my bristles, the outside of this candle. I'm going to stroke down very straight. I'm going to take this a little bit longer than that mark right there. See that? And then this one's going to be a little bit shorter than my outside mark. And then I'm going to very softly, just very softly. There we go. See how light that is? That's all I want. It's very light. Same thing, other side. Outside edge on the left-hand side now. Pulling it down. Same length as its friend over here. And then just feather out your inside candle edge so that it's longer than the right. So you can kind of see how that's going. You're just making an adjustment so that there's a subtle, so there's this curve here. You want a subtle curve coming back. That's how we're getting it. Load, 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 load. Put this guy in. Press down, pull down. Going, 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 going. Just a little bit longer than the friend next to it. Flipping over, doing the other side. Tap, 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 tap. Pulling down. All right, so now that we've got that, a dip in my water, load up my brush, come to my outside right hand edge, pull this nice line, take it longer, and then feather it up. It's like at this angle. Line it. There we go. You can see them coming in, right? Here we go. Still coming in, still coming in. On this side. There we go. Longer. And taper it up. Okay. We have that. We're just paying attention to the nice arc of our curve, making sure that's really lovely. And we're starting to see that. You can see that coming in. They're so ethereal and they're just floating and it's just wonderful. All right, so let's get these last two in. And then we can shade them and put in our beautiful flames and our decorative element. And that's super fun. So these are going to be our longest. Just tapping and making sure I feel happy about the top of my candle. I'm going to pull this down. Straight stroke. A little bit longer. I'll let that finish. Do the same over there. I'll pull this down. Straight stroke as I can do. If you have to chalk in a straight line, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. All right. Pull this down. Little inside friend too. And just let that feather. I'm going to load up my brush. It's feeling a little thirsty. A little dry. Watch for your brush to be thirsty and dry. That's basically when you find yourself painting and painting and painting and no paint's coming off your brush. It's thirsty for some color. Go get it. All right, so we're pulling this down. As straight as you can. Trying to make sure that each candle on the side is about the same length as the other one. On the inside. And then just feather that candle line up. I'm going to rinse out. That's looking pretty good. I'm fairly happy with that. All right, I'm going to shade these candles. Give them some dimension, give them some color. And then we're going to paint in the flames and the beautiful decorative dots and all those elements that make this feel so very special. Okay, so I'm going to actually switch to a slightly different paint mix. I'm going to come over here and you're going to see that I've got my phthalo blue. I'm going to put some phthalo blue. And I'm going to get some of my zinc white. Okay, so we're going to take a little of our phthalo blue to our zinc white. Just a little phthalo blue to our zinc white. There we go. And then we're going to come right here. And this is really fun. We're going to go over our candles. Just a little bit with almost a dry brush. And here at the end, just feather this down a little bit with this kind of brighter color. And you can see that it gives that edge a very ethereal ghost-like quality, which I really like. You don't have to be super meticulous about this one. This is about just going over your strongest value. And then just feather, 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 feather. Can you see those coming in? You need to add a little moisture to your brush, you can. Your zinc. You don't want too much moisture because you won't get the kind of dry edge when you're finishing the stroke. So it's just a balancing act. And come right here. And we're just feather, 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 feather. And you can see that we're just making sure that there's an arc that's happening and it feels very translucent and special. Again, lots and lots and lots of white. There we go. Lots of white on that. Making sure that that's white enough. Zinc it doesn't overpower color. So sometimes you have to make sure you're giving it enough to do what it's doing. That's nice. There, just like a hint. I might put a little of, be very kind of like central. Okay. Come right here. Same thing. And you can see I'm not painting out everything underneath it. I'm just using this to kind of add to the spiritual nature. And what I'm doing there is I'm just making sure that this line is longer than this line is longer than this line, and that these are coming around matching each other. And if for any reason it gets away from you, I'll show you the trick that you do to fix it. Wipe off your brush real quick. Get some Prussian. You just come back. Look at that. So even if it somehow gets away, gets too long or not a length that you want, you can easily, because of this background, change how that shading works. See how lovely that is? And you can come up into here. Make sure that it's just very blended and floating. Rinse out, reload. So that's how you would fix. If you have any problems, you just go back with your Prussian and kind of get delicate with the edges of the candle. So back to my blue, little dust, dust, dust. Get my zinc, 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 zinc. Fun, fun, fun. Pull that. Make sure that it's nice and papered. Pull down. All right, here we go. We're doing really good. So these candles are floating beautifully. Peacefully, just happily doing their candle floating biz. All right. Just have them nice and colored. They're there, they have shape, they have structure. Now, we give the last touch. It just makes them feel like they're beautiful and they're white and they're glowing with this blue energy and that they're very waxing candle. And we're going to use our number 2 bright again to do that. I'm going to come over here to my pure titanium white and I'm going to load up my number 2 bright with the ruby satin bright. Any brush you have that's going to give you a small aspect so you can get in your candles easily. And I'm going to come to the top of this. I'm going to come across just to make sure that this is a nice finished edge, right? And I like to kind of come down the side with as steady of a hand as I can muster. This little fine line coming down the side. Drag that off. Now I'm going to just very carefully, my brush is dry and I'm doing kind of like almost like a textural tapping and dry brushing as I come down, see? And I'll just pull down, but I'm leaving some very textural bits. And then another nice thing you can do is you can load up kind of heavy. See, that's got a bead on it. I can come here almost at a horizontal to my candle and pull down this sort of rough. You don't think sometimes to use a good acrylic brush like a palette knife, but it will do some of the same things. So that's pretty exciting about it. So you can just do the inside edge, but I don't take it down too far because I really want the sort of feathering, dithering at the bottom. Let's keep going. Do all these candles. Same way. Across the top. Down the side. Maybe a little on the inside, but definitely shorter. Load up. Just Dry brush down, and it's all sort of like you can tap in here and leave some waxy textures. Dry brush it down. You can see you can just dry brush it white and the blue shows through. Just dry brushing. Coming down, I might come and leave some heavy paint there. And see, that kind of feels like a wax. Super exciting. I had an oops right there. It kind of looks good. I'm trying to decide what I think about it. I rinsed out, so if I change my mind, I can be like, nope, 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 don't want you right there. This becomes part of the painting. So just don't have a panic somewhere in the middle because something happens. Painting this one down the side, down the right side. Dry brushing the center. Come back with your thick paint. Tapping that in. Tap, tap, tap. I kind of focus my tapping too towards more the center of the candle. So that's the brightest white. I like to kind of make this rough, waxy effect on the edge of my brush. It's like it's horizontal to the canvas and it's just sort of skimming. And that's just dropping little bits of paint in that rough, waxy looking way. Called implied texture. Good stuff. Just right across. This is a great opportunity to, if any of your candles are feeling kind of wonky, just sort of straighten them out, make them work more. Make sure your arc is working. The rest of these little guys in the edge on that right hand side. Shorter on the inside because I'm coming towards the left and then it flips as soon as I get to the other side and goes the other way. There you go. Center candle. So on this one, I'm going to actually drag my white down a little bit and then kind of stop it before the end of the candle and about the same on both sides. And that's because this wouldn't have a side it was more focused on. All right. Painting this in. Love these colors so much. Dragging this down a little bit. Leaving this very spiritual, kind of like wonderful ethereal space in there. Tapping in some texture. I think it's really fun to tap in texture that can be overwhelming. So again, remember, see how horizontal my brush is to the canvas? And I'm just very lightly touching the bristles. And that's dragging down that texture. That's how I get that. Just same thing all this side. Longer strokes are on the left side now. And come across, brush, 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 brush. Nice dry brushing. Make sure I edge my sides. You got this. By your last candle, you should be feeling pretty okay. Going along. You may have a side that is easier or stronger for you, and that is normal. Completely normal. Dry brushing that in. So you can see that a lot of the success of this sort of effect is letting the different layers be kind of dry and transparent and still showing. You don't paint out the previous layer to put in the next one. Right? You've got to balance it out. These are white candles. They have a blue internal glow. Like a, there we go. Just give those candles some waxy space. Okay. Now that you have those laid in, you can check here, and what can happen is that as your paint dries, a lot of the blue pigment underneath can come through. And if that has happened, you're going to want to take your small brush, come back here, and just do tiny taps far away. Kind of little water reflections. Now, I don't go horizontal. I don't go in a crazy angle. I keep them exactly with the brush strokes that I have put in before. Otherwise, it's going to change where the water's flowing, and you may not like that. Whoa! Damn, this was stuck. That happens. All right. See how we go? Just brushing this at the bottom, and that's how you get that to be sure. Definitely, it's a good time to clean up your chalk. And to clean up your chalk, all you got to do is take a damp brush. Doesn't need to be this particular brush, sort of any damp brush and reasonably clean water. And as you can see, it just picks up all of the chalk and erases it. So now it seems like you just had the steadiest hand of anybody who ever painted anything ever in the history of ever. That's how awesome you seem right now. Just saying. Okay, let's put in our flames. So to put these in, all you're really going to need for the rest of this is your phthalo blue and a little bit of a fluid or soft-bodied acrylic. I'm going to use titanium white, and I'm going to pair it with a number 4 round that has a very nice point. If your brush doesn't have a nice point, you may need to get one of your detail brushes out so that you can do it. And then I'm also going to finish doing my dots with this little dotting tool. But remember, if you don't have one of those, you can use the back of your brush. All right, so the first part I'm going to do is that I'm going to load up my brush, right? And I kind of put this into the paint and I sort of swirl it around, and that gets a lot of paint right into my nice round brush. You can see it's all right there. And I'm going to start with my center flame. And to do these flames, I come up at just a smidge from the candle. And I'm going to make a small kind of little smile shape here. Right? And I'm going to very carefully, it's going to be like a teardrop that comes up and it comes to this nice point. And then the finishing move that I really like on this is I bring this up on a very thin line, and then I like to wiggle it a little bit. I don't know if you've ever seen candles do that, but they wiggle a little bit, and I like to include that when I'm painting candles. So since this is wet here, I'm going to try to avoid it, and I'll start over here and go across. Come up a little bit. making my little smile into this lovely little teardrop shape. And then finish this with a little wiggle. You can see the little wiggle. Isn't that wiggle nice? I just like to make sure that I'm leaving a space for my wick. And when I come up to the top, I'm just going to soften my pressure and wiggle the flame. If you're not enjoying the flame wiggle, and you can always practice any stroke that you see me do on a scratch piece of paper to make sure that you're going to be happy with the result and that it's going to work for you. All right, I'm doing the same thing, making my little teardrop and coming in the tip of my brush to wiggle. I got a little paint on my hand. Right here. And I really enjoy this part, the wiggle and the dotting. It just creates a nice decorative element that I think adds to the painting's sense of place and peace. Teardrop. Wiggle. So a flame is a living thing, and don't feel like you've got to have pressure to make each one of these a carbon copy of the one before it. Just make sure it has nice coverage. They're each their own little energy. All right. Here we go. Pulling that flame up. And a little teardrop. Now I have a little trick using the phthalo blue to create a glow that helps these flames like really stand out. But while we're waiting for them to dry, it's nice now to grab a little of your phthalo blue and come into the center of each flame, painting a little bit of the phthalo in the flame. It's like inside the teardrop, but I'm making sure the white is there. Putting that blue in. Just brushing that in. Center candle. Just a little bit to show first range of heat or energy. All right, here we go. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, while that's having a little bit of a dry, I'm going to do my trick to create kind of like a little aura glow. I'm going to use my number 2 again because it has definitely got a nice small profile and it won't run up on everything. And you can either put out some more zinc white, or my trick's going to be put out a little golden glazing liquid because I can make this pretty transparent, as you can see right here how see-through it is. You can use glazing medium or gel medium. You're just right now trying to make this a transparent pigment. And once you have that, you can come very carefully around your flames And paint a little halo of the phthalo blue. You can even come up the flame and like, see? Just so that they pop against their background is kind of nice. All right, a little more of this. If you ever need to add a little white to it to make it pop in the background, you can. Really, this is just about that sense of, you know how candles have a glow? Just be sure and put your glow around your candles. Glowing again. Isn't that nice to let them glow? So I'm just going to brush these halos in around all of this beautiful energy coming off each flame. Around here. Brush it out. Same way you might, you know, the glow that you would have on any candle. And you can see that it can help you. You need to come on the side and help the little wiggle flame show. You can do that. Adding that little glow around each candle. Once you have that in, go ahead and take a little of your pure phthalo and come inside each candle, adding a little curved stroke of the dark blue. Now, see, I've got this nice small brush, and this is going to be my friend right now, because with it, I can very carefully dip into my white paint and come along and make just the tiniest of marks, small as I can make, between my candle and the flame to apply the wick. Isn't that lovely? There you go. Just want to make sure that you're saying that there's a wick there, and that's a nice tender line, and that's lovely. And then we're going to put the sparkling dots that are around each flame. So I'm going to get my little ball daughter. I'm going to use my smaller one. And sometimes I like to bring, I'm actually going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to take my palette over here. Because when you're doing dotting, having to take a long distance between what you're dotting, your tool, your paint, and your object, it's It's not practical. It's another one of those things that can sneak up on your body posture and cause discomfort. So rather than move yourself back and forth from the paint to the canvas, move your paint closer to your workspace. I love the little dots coming up. I don't know if you've noticed this, but some candles sparkle and they sputter. And that's wonderful. Just taking them up there, going around each candle. I'm moving quite quickly, but if you want to, stop and consider where each little flame spark is going, that's totally reasonable. You can see that each time I touch, the dots end up being different sizes, and that's actually good. Create some nice artistry. You can see getting your paint closer makes easier work of this process. There we go. You've got this. Isn't that beautiful? A couple more. There we go. Now you just take a minute to evaluate your project, clean your tool. I feel like we totally got there. Let's sign our piece because we want to sit there and say, we did this, we made this, and we totally approve of it. Now, I don't want to have just white because I want this piece, my signature, to not pull away from all the hard work I've done. So I'm adding a little bit of blue to my paint. So it's not a stark white. And I'm going to come right here. And I'm going to just sign my piece. All right. There we go. We did it. I hope you found the creation of this painting to be relaxing, to be restorative and healing. I hope that if you give it to someone, they love it. And if you keep it to treasure on your own wall, that you love it every day. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at the easel really soon. Bye-bye.